Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are really strapping in for something special. We're going deep into the origin myth, the music, the whole legacy of this incredible East LA band, Mundo Sin Fronteras, World Without Borders.
That's right. And specifically, their big album, Castel Barrio, Echoes of the Barrio. It's kind of the core text for understanding them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the sound they cooked up, this barrio soul fusion. So we've got all these sources, a lot to work with. And our mission today really is to unpack the, let's say, 5 key chapters of their story. You know, from the ground up, their roots, all the way to their vision for the future.
And it's so important to see this album, Ecos del Barrio, not just as songs, but as, well, a cultural map. It charts this collision, you know, place, memory, politics, all happening in East LA.
Yeah.
And the band's journey itself. It's pure resilience. It's about what authenticity even means when struggle is basically your main ingredient.
And you can't talk about their origins without this almost mythical setting, right? This sun-baked garage behind a muffler shop. The sources describe it smelling of oil, tortillas, and sun-baked concrete.
I mean, it sounds amazing, but also, how does that place forge this complex sound? Let's maybe start there.
Yeah, okay. It really boils down to the people, the 5 members. Their backgrounds, often kind of dual backgrounds, are the secret sauce for barrio soul fusion.
Okay.
So, take Marisol. She's the voice. Described as fire and velvet, she grew up on traditional boleros, you know, that real intimate, dramatic stuff, but also heavy Led Zeppelin.
Wow. Okay. So that's quite a mix. She's the heart, making sure it always connects back to the barrio, even when they experiment.
Absolutely. She's the anchor in that sense. Then there's Diego. He's like the conscience of the group. Part rapper, part guitar player.
Troubadour with bars, yeah.
Exactly. He brings in the corrido tradition, those narrative ballads, almost like musical newspapers telling stories of the border, but fuses it with modern freestyle rap, talking about border crossings, detention centers, real contemporary issues. And understanding the corrido part is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just random lyrics. It's rooted in that storytelling tradition. That's where the political weight comes from.
Precisely. And then you look at the rhythm section and you see how, well, necessity breeds invention. Luz, the percussionist, she learned on buckets, pans, broomsticks against fences because they couldn't afford a proper drum kit early on.
Right, so that cumbia pulse, that drive in their music, it comes from this incredibly resourceful DIY place. It's joy and protest all at once.
You got it. And holding it all down is Rafa, bass player, son of a mechanic. His bass lines are deep, steady, inspired by soul, and the oldies you'd hear cruising down Whittier Boulevard. He's the quiet anchor in the middle of it all.
The steady heartbeat. And finally, Santos, the time traveler.
Santos. The DJ, the producer, he's the archivist, obsessed with analog vinyl, but also the architect of their whole retro-futuro idea. He's the one weaving the past and future together sonically.
So this lineup, formed in that garage, it's all about DIY, right? Imperfect gear, making do. That must build a certain kind of toughness.
Absolutely. Resilience was baked in from the start. And their first performances weren't, you know, industry showcases. They were social events, testing out songs at quinceañeras, for cousins, for the abuelas. Real community feedback.
Which leads straight into that famous origin story, their baptism.
Right. Luz's cousin's quinceañera. The hired band is a no-show. Mundo Sin Fronteras jumps in, totally impromptu.
It's been chaotic.
Oh, totally raw, chaotic, but they apparently lit up the room, and that's supposedly when someone in the crowd just yelled it out, Barrio Soul Fusion.
Wow. So the name itself came from the community. That sets the tone right there.
Yeah.
Authenticity validated by the street, not some record exec.
Exactly. Community approval first. Industry, maybe later, maybe never. That was the vibe.
Okay, so that validation brings us right to the music itself, this barrio soul fusion. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. How do they actually make it work? You've got 6 core genres colliding. Corridos, boleros, cumbia, oldie soul, rock, hip-hop. How does that not just become noise?
It's a great question. It's not just a random mix. It's carefully managed tension, I'd say, and shared rhythm. Loz's cumbia provides that constant forward motion, that danceable pulse. That's the anchor for the listener.
Okay, but cumbia is generally upbeat.
Right.
Social. Boleros, which Marisol brings, are often really intimate, sometimes sad or dramatic. Don't those moods clash?
They create tension, definitely, but they don't necessarily fight the tempo. And crucially, there's this harmonic warmth underneath it all, coming from the oldies soul influence. Think Rafa's bass lines, Santos's samples from old vinyl.
Ah, okay. So that warmth kind of creates a space.
Exactly, a harmonic cushion, maybe. It allows 𝗓𝗏sol's intimate vocals to sit comfortably, even when the beat underneath from the hip-hop or cumbia side is pretty aggressive.
So it's structured. Rafa and Santos create this foundation, this warmth, that lets the drama of the corridos and the dance feel of the cumbia coexist without tearing each other apart.
Precisely. And the act of blending itself, for them, it's political. It's a statement. By refusing to pick just one tradition, they're saying, look, the barrio isn't monolithic. No single story owns the truth here. It's about hybridity as a form of liberation.
That reminds me of that Julieta Venegas quote the sources mention.
Mm-hmm.
Something like, I have no problem singing ranchera or hip-hop. For me, there's no conflict.
That's the spirit entirely. Their refusal to choose is their identity.
And that refusal, that commitment, gives them serious street cred.
Undeniable. Which leads us from the theory to the harsh realities they faced.
Right, because this authenticity wasn't just theoretical, it was tested. The sources talk about them playing protest outside detention centers. That's not just a gig, that's putting your music right on the line.
Yeah, it transformed the music, and it became, as one source put it, a resonant moral claim. Songs like Voices of Resistance weren't just songs, they were tools, they were documents for the community.
And meanwhile, they're getting pressure from the industry side.
Oh yeah, the usual stuff. Particularly demands from 𝗓𝗏sol to, quote, tone down the Spanish if they wanted bigger bookings.
Which she refused, obviously.
Flat out refused, again, reinforcing who they were.
But the biggest test, the real crucible moment for them, it seems, was the theft.
Oh, that's devastating. Santos's laptop, with everything on it, all their digital masters, gone.
For Santos, the producer, the archivist, the retro futuro guy, losing his digital archive must have felt like losing, well, everything.
Catastrophic doesn't even cover it. And think about their options. A lesser band might just fold. Or maybe, start a crowdfunding campaign.
But their response, that's what makes the story really powerful, isn't it?
It is. They didn't surrender. They chose to recreate it all. From memory. They rebuilt the tracks from scratch.
Relying on muscle memory.
Exactly. Relying on the fact that the 5 of them were the archive. The songs lived in their hands, their voices, their bodies, not just on a hard drive.
It's this profound statement that the art, the music, survives the technology because the people remember. The living bodies still remember the songs. That gives them a kind of spiritual grounding that no record deal could ever offer.
Totally. Which maybe explains why their breakthrough felt so organic, so East LA.
Right, not some slick campaign. It was a low-rider cruise night on Whittier Boulevard.
They just set up on the sidewalk with the generator, started playing.
And literally blocked traffic because the crowd got so big.
Spontaneously. And then, this is the kicker, a local radio DJ happens to be driving by, records a snippet on their phone, plays it on the air.
And boom. That leads to their first real gig downtown, completely bypassing the usual industry gatekeepers.
Utterly unplannable, unmarketable. It proved their audience was right there, on the boulevard, not where the labels were looking.
But success, even that kind, brings its own problems. The crossroads of success, as the sources call it. Suddenly, the major labels are interested.
Yep. Now the offers come in. The temptation of contracts, bigger tours, real money, but often with strings attached.
The pressure to dilute the politics. Tone down the message.
That's the classic dilemma. And this was their defining moment, really. They had to choose commerce or integrity.
And they chose integrity, stayed independent.
They did. The sources are clear. They turned down the deals. Decided to be, quote, guardians of a communal memory rather than commodities for a market.
Okay, but let's be practical for a second. Choosing independence is heroic, sure. But how does a band doing this complex fusion stuff actually survive without label backing? Distribution, promotion, that stuff costs money. Did it say sacrifice reach?
Oh, absolutely. They sacrificed mainstream reach, no question. But remember that community validation, that became their currency. They leaned into their local network, the lowrider scene, the activists, the neighborhood spots. Santos apparently drove a really smart, hyper-local digital strategy, too.
So success wasn't measured in Billboard charts, but in, like, how loud their music played on Whittier.
Pretty much. Their credibility within the community was their resource. It replaced the need for massive industry machinery, in a way.
That makes sense. And it perfectly sets up their whole philosophy of legacy.
Yeah.
This retro-futuro vision. This is Santos's baby, right?
Yeah.
Connecting their past struggles to how they want to be remembered.
Exactly. Retrofuturo isn't just about nostalgia. It's the idea that the past isn't dead, it's malleable. It's a resource you can actively use.
Stitching abuela's records to futuristic beats.
That's the phrase. It's about intentionally keeping that analog warmth, that crackle of vinyl dust, even when you layer it with modern trap beats or synths, making sure the past is audible in the future.
So the music becomes both an archive and an ongoing invention. They're remixing memory itself.
Yeah. And that preservation ties into their ultimate vision, maybe immortality. It connects to that track, echoes across the borderline, and that line, "We die, but we don't die."
Because the sound lives on.
Precisely. It becomes a communal thing, an inheritance. It lives in the lowriders, at the protests, at the parties. It outlives the actual musicians.
Wow, that is a complete, really resonant story. How place, struggle, innovation, how it all weaves together to create a lasting legacy. So just to summarize the key takeaways we've pulled for you, the listener. Authenticity forged in limits, like the garage. Resilience proven by human memory, like rebuilding the lost tracks. And legacy achieved by actively remixing the past, that retrofuturo idea.
And this incredibly rich human story, this narrative of struggle, community, integrity, it brings us to that final, maybe context-shattering piece we mentioned at the start, and it loops right back to the band's whole mission, ensuring art survives technology.
Okay, I'm braced. What is it? Lay it on us.
The entire story we've just spent the last, 15 minutes exploring. The garage origins, Marisol's background, Diego's corridos, Luz's bucket drumming, the quinceañera, the stolen laptop, the Whittier Boulevard breakthrough, Barrio Soul fusion, retrofuturo.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
The source material explicitly flags it all as AI-generated, AI-gen, created using tools like ChatGPT, Meta.ai, the current large language models.
Hold on, wait. The entire narrative. The smell of oil and tortillas, rebuilding tracks from memory. The fight against technology was itself created by technology.
That's what the sources state. The story celebrating human memory over machines was itself synthesized by machines, which forces us to ask, well, a pretty profound question.
Yeah, I'll say.
If the band's whole point was that human art outlasts tech, what does it mean when the most compelling, authentic-feeling myth about that very resilience is generated by code? This story of Mundo Sin Fronteras, a world without borders, wasn't built by people in a garage. It was built by algorithms echoing human experience.
That is, yeah, the ultimate retrofuturo paradox, I guess. What does the future of storytelling look like when myths about community, about authenticity, about the human spirit can be computationally created and feel this real? Definitely leaves you with a lot to think about regarding memory creation and, well, reality itself. Thank you for diving in with us today.